Welcome back. In today's lecture, I am going to discuss about the state space models. So basically, in previous class, we have learned that how in axiomatic way I can define the dynamical system and how to define the internal variables that is called a state such that one can uniquely define the output corresponding to some input. In today's lecture, I am going to revise several definitions and I hope that most of you already aware about these definitions, but this is the formal practice that in control course or whenever we are writing paper related to control, we are always again recalling all and almost all definition, because definition is one of the very unique thing, and definition is exactly tells us that what is precisely the meaning of some particular mathematical sentence you can tell, and precisely using definition we are understood whatever written inside the definition, not less not more. Due to that reason, whenever we are talking about any new phenomena or any kind of result, first or foremost we are recalling the definitions. So let us start the today's class. So first important definition is related to the definition of continuous time system. So from continuous time system we are telling that a system is called a continuous time system if it accepts continuous time signal as its input and generates continuous time signal as its output. Because I have already told you that whenever we are talking about system, particularly in this course I am talking about dynamical system, then we are formulating relation between input and output. So we are telling that input is continuously available to me and that generates some kind of continuous output. And if this is not the case, then I have second class also, that is called discrete time system. So a system is called discrete time system if it accepts discrete time signal. It means that signal is not available at each time instant, but that will either available at some particular time slot, or with that slot may be regular or maybe irregular, or that is equally specified or unequally specified, and similarly that is generate the discrete time signal. So basically we have one separate course related to digital control or discrete time system. So due to that reason, in this particular modern control system I am going to emphasis on continuous time system. And third definition is called memoryless system. So a system is called memoryless system if its output wise T0 depends only on the input applied to T0. It is independent of the input applied before or after T0. So suppose that if you have some resistor or you have network of resistor, you all are well aware that if I apply some voltage VT0, then I am getting some kind of current IT0. And by Ohm's law, I can write that VT0 equal to IT0 into R. And if I change the voltage by some other value VT1, so suddenly my current will change and that is IT1. But that current is not depending on the past or future. So due to that reason, that class of system is called memoryless system. Another class of system we are going to talk, that system has memory. So from obviously whenever we are talking about memory, then I have now some more possibility, means output maybe depend on the present, maybe depend on the past, or maybe on future also. So we have several possibility now, but we all are aware that when I have make abstraction about the dynamical system, at that time we have already assumed that our output is not affected by the future input. And due to that reason, now again I have two classes in whenever we are talking about system with memory. So one system is called causal or non-anticipatory system. So a system is called causal if its current output depend on the past and current input but not on the future input. And if the current output will depend on the future input also, then that is called non-causal or anticipatory system. So suppose that you can just take example of means current situation. So due to COVID, if people has predicted that this bank is or this share is going means come in loss after some time, then what they are going to do? They quickly sold that share. So somehow by future predicting the future means we are assuming that in future this kind of phenomena is going to happen. So due to that reason we are going to take current action. So somehow that belongs to this class, means non-causal class of system. So now what we have seen that causality is a necessary condition. Why we are telling this is a necessary condition? Because I have to build some kind of engineering system, and I cannot assume that whatever engineering system I am going to build, their output will function of the future input. Then it is very difficult to build or analyze that kind of system. Due to that reason, I have written this remark. In other words, a non-causal system can predict or anticipate what will be applied in the future. No physical system has such capability. Therefore, every system is causal, and causality is the necessary condition for a system to build or implement in the real world. And if you remember the previous lecture, then when I have defined the dynamical system, I have defined two conditions or two axioms. You can tell what is first axioms. We are talking that input output relation is always real, and second one is related to causality condition, and due to that reason we have imposed that condition. So whatever engineering system we are going to talk, that belongs to this class only. Now one more important or central question you can tell, that a central question is dealing with the causal. So now I am assuming that output of the system is not going to depend on the future. Suppose now I have either discrete time system or continuous time system, and with input u and output y, then following question, that given the input at some time n, this is question for discrete time system. So we are assuming that I have discrete input at t equal to 1 second, t equal to 2 second, t equal to 3 second, or something that it belongs to some kind of integers. You can tell that means time instant, and corresponding to that I have some control action, and in between I am assuming we have no control action. So given the input at some time n, that is given by u, and how much information do we need about past input, that is about uk and k less than n, in order to determine the present output. What we have seen that whenever we have system with memory, then I have to know that what is past effect of the input in order to predict the output. So how much that past information is needed to predict the output, that is the one of the central question. And similar question I can also keep for the continuous time system, that here input is continuous, and in this way I can address the issue of memory. And somehow this question I have already addressed in the previous lecture. So We know that if a system is causal, in order to compute its output at a given time t0, we need to know only the input signal over minus infinity to t0, and this is a lot of information because I have to know input signal from minus infinity to t0. Due to that reason, next question comes into picture: can we summarize it with some more manageable quantity? And I will give you one example. In that way you are able to understand little more clearly. So I'm going to open the another window here, and here you can see that if you recall the example from the previous class, so I have one capacitor, and now what we are going to do, that suppose this capacitor is C, so we can write that if I apply some kind of voltage here, so I can write Q equal to CV, and after that I can write IT equal to here C dV by dt. And after that you can see that in this particular relation, in previous class we have already talked about this, that I have dv, so it, and I have after that 1 by c here, and so somehow you can see that this is d tau. So and after that I have to put integration. So what we are telling that I have to predict the voltage variation across this capacitor, and I have applied, suppose I have applied this much of current, that is IT. In another interpretation we can tell like this. So here IT is somehow serve for the purpose of the input. So I have to apply input from minus infinity to t0, and minus infinity I am assume that this value is 0 and this is Vt. And we have already seen in the previous class that after that I am telling that this is Vt, and this is very large information. So I am going to break this information from minus infinity to t0, and t0 is my time of experiment, and after that I have t0 to t and I tau into d tau. So basically in today's class, actually I am talking about this large information, this particular large information. So we have to define some kind of quantity or some kind of definite quantity for this information, because in order to predict the future output at t, I have to understand about this particular term, and this term contain information from minus infinity to t0. And if you remember the previous class, then that is nothing but that particular information is called the state. So basically we already know that state xt1 of a causal system at time t1, because the property of capacitor is different from the resistor. But we have seen that in order to calculate the value of voltage across the capacitor or variation of voltage across the capacitor, whatever input current we are giving, we have to know information from minus infinity to t. So we have to know all input. So what we are telling that a state x t1 of causal system at time t1 is the information together with the input u between t1 and t2 to uniquely predict the output at t2 for t2 greater than t1. So what I have done, that t0 is time of experiment that I have defined as t1, and t2 I have to predict. So I have to know the output at time t2. Similarly in previous integral, what we have seen that I have to know information from minus infinity to t0. So that is some kind of accumulated value. And what we are telling that in previous class we have already seen that that is nothing but the initial condition at t equal to 0, some number. So in other words, the state of a system at a given time summarizes the whole history of the past input minus infinity for the purpose to predicting the output at a future time. And if you see very carefully, then somehow that is related to the energy. So due to that reason, we are telling that keeping in mind this fact that the state variables are the memory variable, or in more physical situation the energy storage variable of a system, often guided us quickly to good choice of state variable in a given context. So suppose that I have already told you that, and today we are again going to show you some example. Using that example, I am going to show you that state space representation is not unique, although input output relation is unique. So now we have to give emphasis whenever we are analyze or build some system, what set of proper state variable we can select, because that is not unique. So somehow, because we have already seen that if something will satisfy fab property, whatever I have discussed in previous class, that will satisfy, that will act like the state variable in order to predict the future, but their definition means their finding is not unique. So in each and every problem we have to properly define it. If you will not define properly, then system become very complicated. And by proper means in future classes you are able to find that by proper definition of a state I can simplify the behavior of system in order to define the solution, analysis and all other things. So non-uniqueness of a state gives us lot of room to do research in the control system. Now let us come to another definition, and again another definition is somehow related to the dimension. So now I have already told you that causality is the necessary condition. So now one can define the dimension of a causal system as the minimal number of variables sufficient to describe the system's state. Because what we have seen that I will apply some input, now goal is to predict the output, and in between we have to know the state variable. So now question is that how many minimum variable is required to predict the future output, and that is somehow related to the dimension of the system. And I have finite dimensional system as well as I have infinite dimensional system. So finite dimensional system is also called lump system. So a system is said to be lumped if its number of state variables are finite or its state is a finite vector. So suppose that whatever example in previous class I have taken one example where I am talking about the oscillation of pendulum. So here theta and theta dot are the state. So I have two states variable. So that is finite dimensional system. Similarly for mechanical system, when I am giving some force, so I have position and x dot, we have seen that that is the state variable, again that is finite dimensional system. I have also another class of system that is called distributed system, and believe on me, most of system, large class of system will fall in this category, but somehow it is possible to show that, means if we again compromise with some kind of accuracy or some kind of precision, then we are converting infinite dimensional system infinite dimensional system into finite dimensional, and after that we are doing analysis, because we have several tools to analyze finite dimensional system and very less tool is still available to analyze the infinite dimensional system or distributed system. So a system is called distributed system if its state has infinite many state variable. And if you talk about transmission line or those system which is model using partial differential equation, that is called PDE, that is belongs to this class. Even if time delay, if some where time delay is involved, again system is converted into infinite dimensional system. So we have very large example of infinite dimensional system, because even if you will build some system, always time delay comes into picture. So you can see that why I am telling that time delay system as a infinite dimensional system. So for that purpose I have taken this very simple example. This is example of first order, and y dot equal to ut minus 1. So you can see that now in order to predict the future for all t greater than equal to t0, I have need information from t equal to minus 1 to t0. So in case of finite dimensional system, what we have observed that we have just need one unique information, one unique number, but here I have need several numbers, means numbers between minus t0 minus 1 to t0. So infinite many information is required, and due to that reason, that is the class of infinite dimensional system. So in this course, most of time I am going to focus on the finite dimensional system. So what is our, now you can see that initially I have defined each and everything, and every time I am going to pick something. So I have picked causal system, I have picked the lumped or finite dimensional system, and in this way now I am going to concentrate towards the some simple system. And now whatever system most of time I am going to consider in this course, that belongs to this class, and that is called linear system. And I have already told you that whenever you are telling something, first you can define it very properly, and whatever definition you are giving, so meaning, whatever meaning you can collect that definition, that is no less no more, means whatever written you have to exactly believe on that, you have to not believe on other thing. So a system is called linear if for every t0 and any two state input output pair. So you have some fixed system, and now you can apply one input, and corresponding to one input you can collect one output. Similarly, now you can apply another set of input and collect the output. And I have already told you that in order to get from input to output, some internal phenomena is involved, and we have captured that black box phenomena using the notion of a state. And I am defining a state x1 t0 for the first time, x2 t0 for the second input output pair. So in this way I have two pair. Now one property is called additivity, and meaning of additivity is that if you add two initial condition and if you add two input, then output of the same system is just the summation. So this is called additivity property, and this is one of the very beautiful property, because one time you can do experiment for some signal, another time you can do experiment for another signal. Now just you can add, so whatever resultant signal, that is just summation of that. And this property, second property, is called homogeneity. So if you scale your state, your input by alpha, then your output is also scaled by same number. And if you combine these two properties together, then that is called superposition principle. And here I have alpha 1 and alpha 2 are two numbers, and I am scaling the x1, means first input state pair by alpha 1, second input state pair by alpha 2, and finally I am getting this. So we have three different quantity involved here: additivity, homogeneity, and superposition. And if all three conditions are satisfied, then we can tell that some system is linear system. Now, so, and obviously if you just check superposition principle or superposition property, using that property I can give guarantee that system is linear. And now I can define the non-linear system, but that is not the exact definition. A system is called non-linear if the superposition property doesn't hold. So, but in exact definition of nonlinear system is not necessarily linear. It means that linear system is also class of nonlinear system, but they will not satisfy the, some system may be there which do not satisfy the superposition principle. because all theory whatever you are going to develop for nonlinear system is equally applicable for the linear system. So I cannot tell that linear system and nonlinear system is completely two different subset. So somehow linear system is included inside the nonlinear system, but this kind of definition is, for time being, we can believe on this definition that okay, nonlinear system is those class of system which will not satisfy the above property. But in the course of nonlinear system, we are not going to follow exactly this definition, and I have already told you why we are not going to follow this definition, because nonlinear system, linear system is also class of nonlinear system. So this definition is very much helpful, and I am going to use this definition in this whole course. And another important concept is zero input response. So what we have found in the previous slide, that here output y1, here I have x1 is some state, some finite value of a state, y1 as a some finite value of a state. Now I am going to put one as a 0, one time a state as a 0, one time input as a 0. So zero input response means that is only response due to the initial condition. So similarly, I can define zero state response by putting the state equal to 0. So system, we are telling that system is in rest. So all internal variable of the system is equally 0, and after that whatever output that is going to reflect, that is just due to the input, that is called zero state response. And mathematically I can write same kind of things like this: ut equal to 0. After that I am noting the output. Again I am going to put xt equal to 0 and noting the output. And I have already told you that linear system is satisfy the additivity property. So it means that in order to calculate dyt, what you can do, first you can put, suppose you know that your system is linear. This is also one of the way to check that your system is linear or not. First you can, what you can do, you can put ut equal to 0, and after that you can collect the or measure the response, and second time you can open all connection, again do reconnection, and after that again do same connection and apply some input, and after that you can note the output. So somehow, suppose you have some kind of RC circuit, and I have some kind of, initially I have some charge on capacitor, and I want to know the response of some input. So initially what I am going to do, I will not apply any value, and after that I will note the output. And after that second time what I am going to do, first I will discharge the capacitor, and after that I will apply some input, and after that I will note the output. And in this way I can tell that the whole response I can able to identify. So, and if you remember the course of first year, at that time we are also talking about means response due to zero input or zero state. So we are, and we are interpreting in another way, that is called transient response, steady state response. So same kind of response I can interpret in different way. Now let us come to the state space model, and I have already told you that I have input and output, and after that I have to fit that input and output using some kind of internal relation, or means mathematical relation, and that is function of a state. And somehow whatever solution I am going to get from that, somehow that is related to the output. So in this way I can define the two classes of system. So continuous time, that is called state space. Why state and space? Because now you can see that if I have second order system, then I have two independent variable is required to predict the output. So somehow now I am in two-dimensional space. Similarly, if you have third order system, then you require three independent variable to predict the output of the system. So I am in three-dimensional space. So like that we are defining the space where basically means how many independent, somehow that is related to how many independent information is required to know the future. So we are representing using this particular differential equation. And here please be careful that I am just talking about the linear system or finite dimensional linear system, and at is also function of the time, so that is not constant matrix. So and we will define this means what is dimension of at, what is dimension of x, what is dimension of ut. Somehow at is called the system matrix, bt is called the input matrix, ct is called the output matrix, and dt is the coupling between output and the input. And now I have two different class again in linear system, that is called linear time invariant system and linear time varying system. So a system is said to be time invariant if for every input output pair and any t we have this kind of relation. So suppose that if you perform some experiment, means in another way you can interpret like this, at t time, and if you perform same kind of experiment at t equal to some other time, then your output means whatever output that is again shifted by same time. That is the meaning. Here you can see that state is the internal variable, so you have to become little bit careful because state variable is not remains the same. Due to that reason I have written here t0 plus t, because now I am shifting my input by t, so output is also shift, but here I have to redefine the state, internal variable state. Now let us come to the physical interpretation of LTI system. So if the initial state and the input are the same, no matter at what time means input is applied, the output waveform will remain always be the same. That is the meaning of the linear time invariant system. And time invariant system is defined for the system, not for signal. So signal is still time varying, but we are defining that because whatever input we are applying, that is varying with respect to time. So that is not time invariant. So signal is not time invariant, but system is time invariant. So behavior of system is time invariant, but whatever input and output, that is still time varying. And the characteristic of time invariant system must be independent of the time. And very simple example, whatever you have learned during your first year of means the circuit system, there we are means there whatever network we are using, that is RLC network, and that represent this class of system. And another, try to understand that what is meaning of time varying system. So just you can means take example of rocket which is burning, so mass is going to decrease with time, so again that is time varying system. And in this course I am going to tackle both class of system, but obviously linear system. For nonlinear system we have separate course. So now let us come to the definition. Here again, whenever we are talking about continuous time linear time invariant system, then a matrix, system matrix, is now no function of time, input matrix is also not function of time, and output matrix and coupling matrix is also not function of time, and similar kind of things. Just you can continuous things you can replace by instant, then that is definition of discrete time LTI system. So now again I am going to, actually in second lecture I have already talked about this, but at that time we haven't defined properly that what is meaning of the time invariant system, what is meaning of linear system, what is meaning of time varying system. So it is not possible to exactly know that if I apply ut, then what is my yt, although I have written that output is the convolution between some ut and some impulse response, that is gt. So today I am going to again derive that kind of expression based on the definition of linear time system, whatever property we have seen, property of additivity, property of after that homogeneity, property of superposition we are going to apply. So you can see that I have continuous time system, continuous time signal, and that is represented by ut. And now I am telling that this continuous time signal I am going to equally space it using some kind of Dirac, or you can tell that some kind of delta function. So I am going to approximate this kind of signal ut by some kind of delta function, and this is the property of delta function. So here you can see that 0 to delta I have in first figure, and delta, and if and this height is 1 by delta. So if delta is tending towards 0, it means that whatever length of this impulse signal that is very small, then I have very large peak, and in that way I am able to capture means any continuous time signal. But here I am going to do approximation. So at t equal to k delta time, I am going to multiply with delta function, and that is shifted by k delta, and in this way I can able to understand that what is value of control input at the u delta. So same kind of things I have written using equation 2. And after that, what I am assuming that if delta function is applied to the some system, then what is the response? So, and that is somehow I am telling that impulse response of the system. So I have given impulse at t equal to minus tau, and I am going to note that response, and I am going to note that response by g delta t tau, and here whatever symbol I have used in equation number 3, that is the symbol of corresponds to. So for tau greater than equal to 0, g delta t tau be the output corresponding to the input. So I have some linear system, I have applied some impulse response to that system, and after that I am going to note that response. Now you can see that I have approximated continuous signal by some kind of delta signal. Now in order to know the output, I have to do summation, and this is the linear system. So what I will do, that I will detect at k delta instant and k varying from 0 to infinity. So suppose k equal to 1. So delta instant, what is my output? I will note that output. Again delta 2, I will note my input to delta, I will note, and after that I am just going to do summation, and due to that reason fourth equation comes into picture, and this is true due to linearity property. And now I have already told you that if delta tending towards 0, then exactly this summation is converted into the continuous summation, and that is nothing but the integration. And now delta is very small, so I have represented k delta by some tau, so very small quantity, and in this way I'll end up to this expression, and function g t tau can be viewed as the output at t corresponding to input pulse of 0 length. Now delta is very small, so due to that reason I am telling that is of 0 length, but unit area means we are maintaining the means area of the Dirac pulse applied at tau. And if I have multi-input output system, so I have k input and m output, then this g t tau for single input single output system, this is a scalar quantity, but for multi-input multi-output system, that is not a scalar. So if I have k input and m output, so you can see that g t tau is some kind of matrix valued signal of dimension k cross m, and then output again by same kind of way, means linearity, means I have applied the additivity, homogeneity, and superposition everything together, and after that we are getting this kind of signal. So this is the impulse response of multi-input multi-output system. So in this course I am also going to talk about single input single output system, multi-input multi-output system. Now let us, you can see that again in this integral, whatever output I am talking, that is improper integral, means whenever we are one limit is infinity, it means that we are not sure what is up to what value I have to integrate. So somehow using some property I have to cut this limit, and actually we know that because whenever we are defining system, then I have two property I have already defined. One property I have already told you that input output should be real, or if that is matrix valued, then each entry of the matrix valued function should be real. And another property is that related to causality, means we are assuming that output yt is not affected by the future input. So just we have to cut the future input, and if you cut the future input, so what I am assuming that a system is said to be relaxed at t equal to t0 if its initial state at t0 is 0. So I am assuming that system, means somehow I am talking about the zero state response of the system. In this case the output yt is t greater than or equal to t0 is excited exclusively by the input u for all t greater than or equal to t0. Therefore lower limit of impulse response can be replaced by t0, initially that is 0. So now if I have I am able to make sure that system is relaxed at t0, then I will replace by t0, and upper limit is replaced by t. And why we are replacing upper limit? Because we know that output of this system is not going to depend on the future value, and in this way I can able to come up with some integral, and here this is not improper integral, that is proper integral, and in this way I can calculate the output of the system. And in now I am going to show that gt tau is nothing but t minus tau if I have linear time invariant system. So this expression is linear for linear time invariant system as well as time varying system. But in case of time invariant system, it is possible to show that gt tau is nothing but gt minus tau, and same expression I have written in the second class. So we know that if system is causal, then output will not appear before the input. So it means that output of system is not going to depend on the future output, and thus just due to that reason, for all tau greater than or equal to t, this function equal to 0, and this is obvious from the linearity, because u equal to 0, then I can tell that y equal to 0, and if I shifted by tau, then again suppose I have some value y bar and yt equal to 0 for all t greater than or equal to t0. So in this way I am telling that whenever a system is causal, then gt tau equal to 0, and this is the very simple proof for that. Now let us try to see that what is meaning of time invariant system. So in time invariant system, if you shift both, so impulse response whatever g, you can shift both by t, you are getting same expression, and proof is again very simple from the definition. So what we are telling that whatever impulse response, I am going to calculate the impulse response at t equal to t. So yt equal to t, and now whatever tau that is replaced by t tau plus t, and we know that system is time invariance. So by invariance, impulse response at t minus 2 at time tau must be output y bar. So this is the output y bar, and now my output means whenever we are defining, this is coming from the definition, y tau t equal to yt plus tau, because we have already defined time invariant system by this, and whenever if I will show y t plus tau, then that corresponds to the g t plus t and tau plus t. In this way we are telling that whatever impulse response g, that is same if system is time invariant, but obviously that is not same if system is time varying. And for causal system I can also write like this. I have already told you that, and this is very simple because this is time invariant system. So now you can see that from both, that is function of t and tau. So you can just subtract tau from both, then that is gt minus tau into 0. So in second argument that is equal to 0. So that is equal to like this, and in this way I can get this result. Somehow sometimes student is confused with this result, so I will again give one kind of alternative proof for this also, then that become more, I hope that then things become more transparent and clear. Due to that reason I thought to give one more proof for the same. And here try to see that. So what I am telling that basically that I have now I am going to apply some kind of delta function, and after applying this delta function, that is I am representing like this, and at that time I am getting the response this. So this is by definition that I have applied impulse function to some linear system, and I am assuming that this is linear time invariant system. So I have applied input and I am going to get the output, and here my output is basically, here this side is input, so I and input. Here you can see that if impulse response is delta represented like this, then by definition I am getting this kind of output. Now if I, since this is time invariant system, so I am going to shift this value by t minus ti. So automatically this is going to shift by g delta t minus ti, and this property is due to time shift property. Now what I'm going to do, that I'm going to apply the homogeneity property. So in this way you are able to understand that how one can apply the all property. So t minus ti, and now I am representing my input using the impulse function, and at that time you can see that with this, by result of homogeneity, what I am going to get, I am going to get some function like this, and where I have u ti and ti and multiplied by delta, and after that, so this is due to homogeneity property, and now after homogeneity what I am going to do, that I am going to take summation. So I am going to use the additivity property. So if you apply I from I equal to 0 to infinity, then basically I have d delta t minus ti, and after that I have uti, and here I forget one quantity, that is delta, because I am telling that means basically length and width. So due to the uti is the somehow length of means length of signal, and this is delta is the width of the signal. And after that, if you apply this kind of quantity, then whatever output you are getting going to get, that is represented by again g delta t minus ti, and after that uti delta, and this is nothing but the additivity property. And now what you can do, you can just replace this integral by assuming that delta tending towards delta is very small, and if delta is very small, so from here you can see that means this summation is converted into the some kind of continuous summation, means continuous integral, and after that g and if ti is tau instant, then this is tau, and basically I have this tau is u tau and d tau. So in this way means whatever delta is converted into d tau and u tau, and in this way I can generate the expression. So you can see that this is true for linear system only, linear time invariant system. Why? Because this property is time shifting property I have used, and this property is true for time invariant system, not for time varying system. So I have used time invariant property, I have used definition, I have used homogeneity, I have used additivity, and finally I will get the expression. So I hope that this become clear, and you can also equally see the book, that is book by C.T. Chen, where this is clearly, very clearly, that is written. So let us now come again to the lecture. So that is the second way of the proof. Now let us come with one mechanical system. So using, now in this part I am going to show that state space representation is not unique. So first I am going to show using one very simple example. So I have taken the example of mechanical system. So here I have assumed that force is very general, so that is function of time and x. But suppose that if force is just function of time, then I can, using Newton's law, I can write the equation number 7. So dx by dt equal to vt and dv by dt equal to 1 by m ft, where m is the mass of this mechanical system. And now you can see that in order to calculate the position of this system, first I have to integrate the first equation, and this is pretty easy to integrate. And again you can see that I have break this integration from minus infinity to t0, and I have already told you that because I have started this experiment at t0, so it is very difficult to know information from minus infinity to t0. So I am going to summarize some part, and that is nothing but the initial condition, that is vt0. And again in order to calculate xt, now you can put vt, and here you can see that in order to calculate 9, I know dft, I know dm. So only two quantity is remaining here, that is vt0 and xt0, and that is nothing but the state variable of the system. So in this way we can tell that here xt and vt are the state variable. And time invariant system is basically represented like this, because I have already told you that in time invariant system a matrix is not function of time, b is not function of time, and this is the dimension. So I am telling that x belongs to Rn. I will come to this kind of things in the next part of this course, more general form, and there I am going to write everything such like x belongs to R n cross 1, or y belongs to R n cross 1, like that. Now this is the expanded form, and I hope that you all are already aware. Here I am assuming that output is not affected by input, so due to that reason that term is not present here. So this way we are representing multi-input multi-output system. Now let us try to see that what we have observed, that in previous example I have x1 as one state, that is position, x2 as another state, that is velocity, and ut is the force. So this representation is called a state space representation. And here you can see that in modern control system we are representing second order system just by using the first order differential equation. And always this differential equation I can write x is the state vector equal to ax plus bu. I have already done this, so I am not going to repeat. And output here I can represent like this. So this is the one representation where we can talk about the state, mathematical expression, and about the output. So this is complete representation of the dynamical system or mechanical system. Now I can define another variable, that is zt1, and that is 2x1 plus vt, means summation of two state variable, and another variable z2, that is xt plus vt. And from here, from this expression also I can correlate what is x1, xt or vt, by using equation number 18. And now again you can see that in this representation I have dz1 by dt and 2 minus 2z1 4z2. Just using differentiation, taking differentiation from both sides, I can again come up with another mathematical representation. And here a state variable is z1 and z2. So if I know z1 and z2 and ut is already known to me, m2 is already known to me, still I can able to talk about the output of the system by just subtracting z1 minus z2 because output is xt. So in this way I have another set of state variable. Due to that reason we are telling that state representation is non-unique. And this is the state space representation, and I have already told you that in matrix form I can represent the output also. So again, conclusion is that state variable representation is not unique. State variable means state variable representation is not unique. State variables are also not unique. However, now I am going to show that at least for this linear system, x dot equal to ax plus bu plus y equal to cx, again I am assuming that x belongs to Rn, u belongs to Rm, and y belongs to Rp. So here this system means I have p output, or means you can also define single input single output system, both result will true. So there you can see that I have introduced one transformation of the state because state space representation is not unique. So what I am telling that there exists some p matrix, and p matrix has certain property such that I am going to define another state space representation. But all state representation are somehow correlated. Due to that reason we are telling that two state representation x and x cap has some relation, and that is related with some matrix p. And if you take the differentiation both sides, so I can express the system as well as output in terms of the p. I am assuming that p is constant matrix as well as time invariant. Why I am telling matrix? Because x is some vector. Now I have to relate to vector. So matrix is acts like some kind of transformation. And if you take Laplace transform both sides of original system, then this is the transfer function. And if you take the Laplace transform of the equation number 23, 24, then you will get this kind of transfer function. So now this is exercise for you, that it is possible to show that both 25 and 26 are the same. So in this way we are telling that although the state representation is non-unique, but input output, and that I have, because using frequency domain it is very easy to show. Due to that reason I have used that, so that remains the same. So this is just exercise. Please put in place of c cap you can put cp inverse. Similarly for a cap you can put pap inverse, and after that in place of b cap, and try to check that equation 25 and 26 both are the same. So with this I am going to end the today class. So what we have seen that in today class I have defined those class of system which is interest for our future class. So I am going to talk about the linear system. Again, linear system, during the definition of linear system, what we found that causality is one of the necessary condition. And after that what we found that I have two different class of LTI system: linear time invariant system, linear time invariant system, and linear time varying system. After that what we found that state space representation is non-unique representation, but input output representation is unique. So with this remark I am going to end the today class. So thank you very much.